Have you ever noticed someone who always declines invitations? The friend who skips the party to stay home. The coworker who never joins happy hour. The person who genuinely prefers a quiet Friday night alone over a crowded event. In a culture that celebrates being social and out there, they almost seem like they're missing out. Like they're not living life to the fullest. Society calls them antisocial, boring, even lonely. But psychology says this behavior isn't about fear or loneliness. It actually reveals something much deeper about their confidence, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. Let's decode the real psychology behind people who prefer staying home. Because what looks like avoidance on the surface is actually mastery underneath. 1. Authentic relationships over networks. Here's a truth that social media has made us forget. 3 real friends are worth more than 300 acquaintances. 1 deep conversation beats 100 shallow ones. People who stay home aren't bad at relationships. They're actually better at them. They're just intentional about them. Strategic, even. They don't collect people. They don't maintain relationships out of obligation, social expectation, or fear of being seen as unfriendly. They invest deeply in a few people rather than spreading themselves thin across dozens of surface-level connections. And research backs this up completely. Studies from Harvard, from Oxford, from multiple institutions all point to the same conclusion. Deep, meaningful connections predict happiness and longevity. Not the number of connections. Not how popular you are. The quality, the depth, the authenticity. These people don't show up to everything. But when they show up fully, present, engaged, real, not performing, not networking, not maintaining an image, just being genuinely there. They choose meaning over maintenance, depth over breadth, real over performative. And their relationships reflect that. Fewer people, but those people matter. And those people know they matter. 2. High selective energy management. People who prefer staying home aren't antisocial. They're selectively social. And there's a big difference that most people completely miss. Here's what research shows. Introverts and extroverts process dopamine differently in their brains. For extroverts, social interaction generates energy. It lights them up. Their brain rewards them for being around people. But for introverts, it's the opposite. It depletes them. Every conversation, every small talk, every group setting, every social performance requires energy expenditure, not energy gain. It's like running a marathon while everyone else thinks you're just taking a casual walk. So these people aren't avoiding others because they don't like people. They're managing their resources intelligently. They understand their own operating system. And instead of forcing themselves to be someone they're not, they honor who they are. They choose quality over quantity. They're selective about who deserves their time and energy. Not everyone gets access. And that selectivity? That's not weakness or snobbery. That's high self-awareness. They know their limits. They respect them. And they don't apologize for them. That takes a level of self-knowledge most people never develop. 3. Internal locus of satisfaction. Most people need external stimulation to feel fulfilled. Parties, events, constant plans, always something happening. They need the noise. They need the distraction. Without it, they feel empty, bored, like life isn't happening. But people who prefer staying home? They have something most others don't. A rich, internal world. They don't suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out, because they're genuinely not missing anything. They're engaged. Just differently. While everyone else is out chasing experiences, they're creating meaning. Books, creative projects, learning new skills, deep thinking, building something meaningful. These aren't distractions from life. These aren't substitutes for real living. These are their life. This is where they come alive. Psychologists call this emotional self-sufficiency. It means they don't depend on others to feel alive, entertained, or validated. They're not waiting for life to happen. They're making it happen, quietly, on their own terms. That's not loneliness. That's emotional maturity. That's having such a strong relationship with yourself that you don't need constant external input to feel okay. They don't need the world to come to them. They've already built one inside. And it's far more interesting than most people realize. 4. Stronger emotional regulation. Here's where it gets really interesting. Most people need others to regulate their emotions. It's not a conscious thing, but watch how they operate. Bad day at work? They need to call a friend immediately. Feeling anxious? They need to go out, be around people, distract themselves. Bored? They need to find someone, anyone, to hang out with. They can't just sit with themselves. Psychologists call this co-regulation, relying on others to manage your emotional state, using people as emotional stabilizers. And there's nothing wrong with that sometimes, but when it's your only strategy, you're building your emotional life on a foundation you don't control. But people who prefer staying home? They've mastered something harder and more valuable. Self-regulation. They know how to process their feelings independently. They can sit with discomfort without panicking. They can feel anxiety without needing someone to fix it immediately. They can be alone with their thoughts without spiraling. They can self-soothe, reflect, and recalibrate on their own. And this is linked to what psychologists call secure attachment style. It means they feel fundamentally safe within themselves. They don't need constant reassurance from others to feel okay. They don't need external validation to know they matter. That's not isolation. That's not emotional avoidance. That's emotional independence. That's having such a solid foundation within yourself that you can weather any storm without needing someone else to hold you up. And that's real strength. The kind that lasts. 5. Deep work and creativity requires solitude. Deep work and creativity require solitude. Think about every major breakthrough in history. Every invention, every masterpiece, every revolutionary idea. Einstein developing relativity. Newton discovering gravity. Marie Curie isolating radium. Virginia Woolf writing Mrs. Dalloway. What did they all have in common? Long, uninterrupted periods of solitude. Not because they were lonely, but because meaningful work demands it. Because here's the truth. Meaningful work doesn't happen in noise. It doesn't happen in distraction. It happens in silence, in deep focus, in complete immersion. Psychologists talk about flow state, that zone where you're completely absorbed, fully focused, deeply productive, where time disappears and you're operating at your highest level. But you can't reach flow when you're constantly interrupted. You need unbroken time. You need space to think deeply. You need solitude. People who prefer staying home understand this instinctively. They've felt the difference between shallow busyness and deep work. They know that one evening of complete focus is worth more than 10 nights of shallow socializing and surface-level fun. They're not hiding from the world. They're building something in it, creating something meaningful, working on something that matters. And that requires solitude. It requires saying no to the noise so they can say yes to the work. They prioritize long-term goals over short-term entertainment, future impact over present approval. And that's a sign of maturity most people never reach because they're too busy being busy. So next time you see someone who prefers staying home, don't assume they're lonely or missing out. They're not lonely. They're selective. They're not antisocial. They're self-aware. They're not afraid of the world. They're just not impressed by the noise. They don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. They're not running from life. They're living it on their own terms. And that's real emotional intelligence. If you love understanding human psychology, hit subscribe. We decode minds, not just behaviors.